What is going on, NFL fans? Welcome back to another episode of The Way We See It. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Wesley Coleman. What's up, Wesley? How are you?
So man, it's all soccer all the time right now. I mean, but I guess I can take a break for a few minutes and talk about football. The other football.
Yeah, I'm not following the World Cup too much at all. I know it's existing and I know that it happens, but I haven't watched anything, so I can't really.
Ye- Yesterday or this week, the round of 32 started, which is the knockout round. So if you
Yeah.
lose, you're done. It's also to where there can be no more ties. So if the game ties, they have go into multiple extra times and then they go into penalty kicks. Two games yesterday, or two games have already gone into penalty kicks, and they're incredible. I, a friend of mine in England was like, "Man, yeah, this is great," and I was like, "This is why I like playoff hockey. Is one, you get the penalty shots a lot more, or not the penalty shots, but you get the overtime where it's just sudden death or one goal." Ends it all, and it's just great drama. He goes, "Yeah, it's great if it's not your team in it." I was like, "Man, it's still fun."
It's funny that soccer and hockey are flipped. In hockey, regular season, you have, I think it's a 5 minute 3-on-3
Right?
overtime, then
Yep.
it goes to a shootout. In
Yep.
playoffs, it's 5-on-5 until someone scores a goal.
Till you
It could be the
forever.
flukiest thing you've ever seen. In soccer, it's like, okay, we're now at the point where we're not going to go extremely long time. We're not going to end in draws. Now we're going to do penalty. It is funny that the two sports systematically are so different,
Have that backwards. Yeah, it's
but
funny.
it is what it is. All right, let's talk NFL. And I think we have to start off. Yesterday I did the NFL whip around with Kevin Smith, and we had recorded before the news of Terry and Arnold broke, not the news of his arrest. We knew about that, but that the Detroit Lions flat out released him. I don't know about you, Wesley. The Lions clearly under Dan Campbell do things their own way. Do you think that maybe this was I don't know if a knee jerk isn't the right word, but was it a rash decision? Do you think they should have kind of waited, or do you think they know enough to know that this isn't going to end well?
I think he 100% they did the right thing by letting him go. This is there's I don't know how much have you actually dug into the details of what happened and what it
I read
looks
the
like?
report. It's pretty frightening.
It's pretty awful, but also from the Lions perspective is they had a conversation with Terry and Arnold asking him about his involvement, and it sounds like he assured them that this has nothing to do with me. Like, I know some people that knows them, but not that I was on the phone directing people of how to kidnap others, and then I showed up at the place and directed them to do some other things, and then I'm
Ugh,
on. I mean, he's like, it's pretty dumb to be the mastermind of something, but be like, oh, but I'm not gonna get tired because I'm just on FaceTime telling them what to do.
yeah.
Pretty dumb.
See, I did not know that part where they had a conversation with him and he denied
Yeah, they
having a
they they
ton of
called him in and had
involvement.
the conversation, and they left the conversation going, "We're gonna let the process play out." And he basically assured them that there's no way he would get charged and that it wouldn't really be a thing. And
It's
there, I mean,
it's
and again, with this all being done on cell phones, all it's 100% like provable exactly who was involved and what they
oh
were
yeah,
doing and how it was happening.
all traceable. It's
And I'm sure
it's
all the other people involved now that were his buddies are like, you know what? I bet if we give up Terry and Arnold, we can get out of this.
me.
I mean,
I don't want to spend too much time on this. To me, this story is ridiculously sad. And it's not a one off either. We've had so many of these stories, not just in the National Football League, but in life in general. You hear about it in in everyday society, where people that seem to be on a really good track, not just lucrative, but just on a really good personal path. And it just seems like for some reason they can't get over this other life, these other involvements, and it ends up coming back and biting them. I don't know. Any final thoughts on Terry and Arnold?
well, just on the situation, I just want to say bravo to the state of Florida, for actually carrying this through and charging him, because it wasn't that long ago that they completely helped cover up Ray Lewis murdering people in Florida. So it's great that we've in my lifetime come from, oh, let's let this person go on to be a Hall of Famer and be one of the most beloved football players ever for stomping on the field and dancing, to, like, holding people accountable and probably sending them to prison.
As a Steeler fan, I stand by that statement. All right, so Terry and Arnold aside, the NFL is also going through their top 100 list. We've gotten down to, what are they, in the 80s, I think, right now?
Yeah, 90 and 89 and 90 were
Okay.
released just this week.
I don't care too much about the rankings, but I'm going to ask, do you follow this? Do you find it fun?
I mean, I think in the middle of the offseason, you ask me what should we talk about, it becomes pretty viable news and information.
I will say I do like watching the videos. I remember
I
when
like that there's 2 New Orleans Saints players already in it, so that's good. And a former Saints player.
Didn't they used to have, it was a TV show? Like, it was every
Yeah.
Sunday night or whatever. Now I think they just release them on Twitter and social media. I love watching other players talking about that player. Doesn't matter who they play for. If I find it on my timeline, I always tend to watch. And so even if it's Cam Jordan from the Saints and people were talking about, man, this guy, I remember this one play that and then they'd bring up the play and show it. Like, I just find that stuff fascinating. I just think it brings to life these players. And sometimes players that don't get the recognition outside of maybe situations like this, I think, like you said, perfect thing to do in the off season. It's going to give people something to talk about, but I'm going to leave it at that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's something to talk about, and it's interesting where the players on your team, like how they get talked about nationally. I think there's, you and I try to keep a broader view of the NFL as a whole. I think most fans really focus on their team, and there's a lot of things going on with other teams that they don't know. So I think it's cool to kind of see where they land nationally and get to talk about it. It'd be a little more interesting if we could add in and get Diana Rossini's take on all of these as they come out. I mean, if we could just add that extra layer, I'd probably, probably pay a little more attention.
You're only getting that layer if she gets pulled over for speeding and she's trying to get out of a ticket.
Oh my God. It just keeps getting worse for her.
Oh my gosh. Just to clarify, the NFL Top 100 is voted by the players, correct? This is not media members or anything like that.
It is voted on just by players. Okay. It is, and I think that's an interesting view of it too. I also 100% don't think that the players voted Cam Jordan player 100, and it just happened to come out after his new contract time. But I can appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, the main topic of discussion today, we wanted to do a winners and losers type segment, and this stems from New York Times or The Athletic. They put out, this was, give him credit, Mike Jones. He put out his list of off-season winners and losers across the NFL. Now, the winners and losers, we'll talk about some of those teams here, and we'll give our thoughts on those teams as well as teams that may have been left off that should have been added to the list. So, according to Mike Smith,
you want to talk about losers first or winners?
You want to do losers first?
I was thinking losers, but
okay, let's do losers first. That's fine by me. So, losers first. He lists the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Arizona Cardinals, the Green Bay Packers, and the Miami Dolphins as the losers of this past offseason. Now, I can honestly say that when I look at this list, there's only 2 teams that are surprising that they are on the losers list. The Green Bay Packers are a team that obviously is, they're at least competitive. We'll put it that way. They gave up a lot for Micah Parsons. He's still injured, coming off that injury. They cite Josh Jacobs' issues off the field as one of the reasons. So that was surprising. And then the Jaguars is another one based on the fact that they were a playoff team last year. They won the AFC South, I believe. But then when you see, and they did lose a lot in free agency, it's interesting. What was your take on his list before we maybe add another team?
It's just funny. Honestly, my list is the opposite of my take is the opposite of yours, where I was like, these are the 2. When you said there's 2 teams that don't make sense to be on here, I'm like, well, he's talking about Arizona and Miami.
Oh no, Arizona and Miami stuck
because they already sucked. They sucked before. Like, and I mean, they're probably 2 of the 3 worst teams in football. And Miami maybe got out of that by maybe having a quarterback. I thought it was going to be the other way. It's like, why is he on the list? Because like they're just going to suck. So like we don't need to talk about like a sucky team.
I see what you're saying. So okay,
like, why is Arizona on this? Because they were maybe they were going to win 3 games. Now they're going to win 2. I just,
Yeah.
but, and I think so for me, the Packers, I think that overall, what you say is the Packers had a disappointing season last year, not making the playoffs, or not making the playoffs, getting knocked out quickly, being a wild card team, in a competitive NFC North where you're probably anticipating the Lions improving, Caleb Williams maybe taking another step, the Vikings having something that might be a quarterback, and possibly improving, and the Green Bay Packers, I think the pressure should have been on them to make to make improvements. And instead, I mean, they lose Romeo Dobbs, they lose Quay Walker and who their left tackle, Rasheed Walker, and then they traded away Rashawn Gary and Datavian Wicks, which Wicks isn't necessarily a big deal, but a couple of that with Romeo Dobbs, it's quite a bit that they lost. And then I don't think that I don't believe they drafted a wide receiver or signed one after losing a couple. So an offense that was already having some issues, they lose their left tackle and 2 wide receivers. I just don't know if that's necessarily a good thing for them. And I think that losing Quay Walker and Rashawn Gary can be a big deal.
The way you lay it out there, for sure, I could see why people would label them as losers of the offseason. And I think what really compounded all of this is that they gave up so much in regards to draft capital for Micah Parsons, and they're not even able to get anything back in return because all reports are he's not going to be ready for the start of the season.
Right.
They're looking like he might start on the PUP list. And then once you go there,
they're talking about him missing. They're talking about him missing half the season.
Man, that's a
gut punch. Right. The last estimate that I saw was half the year is what he's expected to miss. And I mean, and we're just throwing into this isn't necessarily the Packers' fault, but Josh Jacobs has been arrested on domestic violence charges. He hasn't been suspended yet. Depending on how quickly that plays out or how bad the details are, he could always be on the commissioner's list.
Okay, so you definitely talked me into the Packers. What about the Jaguars? Is it just the fact that they lost so much in free agency and they didn't really add a lot? Or what's your take on the Jaguars and why you thought they should be on the loser list?
I mean, I know. So one, they lost Travis Etienne to the New Orleans Saints, which is great. Now I'm an Etienne fan. I'm glad that he's on the Saints, but I don't know how much that affects the Jaguars because I could be completely wrong, but I think Bashal Tutin is super, talented, and I expect him taking a bigger role could be a really good thing for them. But them losing Greg Newsome and Devin Lloyd, I think is big, and I think they're gonna be coming from the place where you and I, where it's like not believing in Jacksonville. They were already this kind of fringe. Should they be even winning the playoffs if they weren't in a kind of weak division? Should they be? And then you weaken that team a little bit, and I think it just and then they're the Titans are a team that is kind of on the up and up. They got a few years to go, but I think it was just a fringe playoff team that was going to have to fight to maybe win their weak division, and probably have no chance of a wild card. It looks bad for the Jaguars.
I think on paper it looks bad. I think sometimes we might say, like you said, you believe in Tutin behind Etienne, and when hey, we're just going to let him go because we really like this guy that's behind him, and we think he can do a lot of the things that that I keep on wanting to say Etienne, but Etienne is doing for us. So hey, sometimes these things work out, but on paper in the offseason, I get why they don't. But let's go with a different.
Didn't the Jaguars wasn't their draft picks? Then they found like have a few reaches? Wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think I thought that we didn't like their draft too much.
I agree with you. I think so, but a lot of times, again, what you don't like on paper it
works out.
might turn out to be okay. Is there a team, AFC, NFC, doesn't matter, that you would put on the losers list that's not listed here in this article?
Trying to think. I did not.
I have one.
You go ahead. Start.
And this is really, people are going to be like, oh, but the draft and all this stuff. There's a team that for whatever reason, the head coach has been on the hot seat now for the past few years. Quarterback is not happy with his situation and his contract. They get rid of a veteran who is like the face of the franchise almost. It just doesn't seem like this team is trending in the right direction. I'm going to say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think Tampa Bay is a team, their offseason has not been good. And again, there's a lot of people that will point to the draft and say, oh, they got, it was a Reuben Bain, and I think that was their top pick. He's going to be really, really good and all this. And I get it. But everything else that I've seen so far from this team in the offseason has been very questionable at best. I would lean towards having the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the losers list, because if Baker Mayfield is banged up again, if they don't get a contract figured out with him, you let Mike Evans walk in free agency, he goes to San Francisco, you had some retirements. I don't know, man. Like, maybe it's just turnover and I'm not aware of what's behind these players. I know Emeka Egbuka is good, but at the same time, like, is he that? I don't know, man. You're an NFC South guy. You might disagree, but that's my take. I'll say Tampa Bay.
No, I agree, and because Reuben Bain was always considered a stretch, and is he going to make it, and how his attitude's going to be? I did, and I think that was their only draft pick in the first 3 rounds. I don't think they had another pick for a while, but they lost Mike Evans, they lost Jamil Dean, the cornerback,
to Pittsburgh,
to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I thought that losing Rachaad White to the Commanders was a big deal for them. Now. They did sign Kenneth Gainwell, and I think you and I are both Kenneth Gainwell supporters.
Sure.
I just don't. Yeah. He doesn't replace Rachaad White. That's not. And then they are counting on, with losing Rachaad White, if Bucky Irving has another injury-plagued season, I don't know where they're going to get rushing yards from on first through third down. And listen, I like Gainwell, but that's not his. That's not his game. Is running between the tackles or replacing Rachaad White. So. And again, like you said, there's also been weird stuff there with the coaches, and like, was the offensive coordinator and different coaches going to be fired and all? So yeah, it'll be interesting with them for sure. They did bring in Jake Browning though, so they do have a backup quarterback.
Hey, watch out now. I have an AFC team, or do you have one of you mentioned?
No, go ahead. What you got?
I got the Indianapolis Colts.
That was going to be mine. Did we see enough to say Daniel Jones is really this guy? But is he even going to be healthy? And so,
a ruptured Achilles, it typically takes over 9 months until you're fully healthy.
If Daniel Jones isn't the guy or isn't healthy, what's the game plan?
Exactly. I mean, and then you think about, then you go back to last year's trade deadline and everything that they gave up to get Sauce Gardner. And then you give Alec Pierce, who is also injured, by the way, and missed all of offseason workouts. They're hoping he'll be ready for training camp. They think that it's not going to be an issue going into the season. They give Alec Pierce this monster deal. They trade Michael Pittman Jr. to Pittsburgh, and you gave away Mitchell. That he's with the Jets, and that wide receiver could maybe help you now. Is Sauce Gardner worth all those first-round draft picks? Like, they didn't get that first-round pick this last draft class. Jonathan Taylor's entering the final year of his contract. He's not happy. Some are saying that he could even be on the trade block if there's a team that gave up enough. I don't know. I just feel like the Colts, they went for it. They went all in last year. Their quarterback gets hurt. The guy that you traded everything for doesn't pan out, and he gets hurt. And then it just compounds itself. It's kind of like a Green Bay situation where you gave up so much for a Micah Parsons. You gave up so much for Sauce Gardner. And now what? Like, now what? I don't know. I'm not a believer in the Colts this year.
Yeah, and their defense has had to be their strength, and them losing Kwity Paye, losing Tyquan Lewis, and then adding like Arden Key and Michael Clemens to replace them. I don't know if it was the best thing. And then they when in the Green Bay trade, they traded Zaire Franklin, which I don't know. And then Kenny Moore's not going to be back there. A lot of it's interesting, but I asked the question. So just the answer of, if Daniel Jones isn't able to go, your quarterbacks are Easton Stick, Riley Leonard, and Anthony Richardson Sr.
Hell yes.
If Daniel Jones is healthy, there's Jonathan Taylor healthy can do some things. I think Jonathan Taylor's incredible, and he did. Let's not forget, He had 1,900 yards and 20 touchdowns last year. I'm not going to get off of that. But it's even with that, once Daniel Jones was gone and the okay quarterback play was gone, we talked about it, that they were going to lose a bunch of games in a row and not make the playoffs, and that's how it worked out.
You would think they would have tried to go out and get a better backup. Hey, like Daniel Jones, it's not a what if he gets hurt. It's he was hurt. Will he be ready? You would think. I mean, let's say like Riley Leonard, and they saw him for I think a game last year.
I've heard good things, but that's a lot.
They got Phillip Rivers to come in off the couch coaching his high school team instead of going to Riley Leonard last year. I understand why they did it, but at the same time, I'm not a believer. But let's go to the winners now. Let's finish this show on a positive. Here's from the article, the winners. I think we could all agree that the LA Rams are winners from the offseason. I don't think we need to really belabor that.
Stamped, move on.
Yes. Baltimore Ravens are on the list. I've got issues, but we'll continue. Cleveland Browns are on the list. More issues from Jeff. The Dallas Cowboys are on the list. You might have issues with that being in the Fort Worth area. And the Vegas Raiders, I actually am going to say that I think we both would agree that they were winners this offseason. I don't think there's like this is a debate. I think Raiders and Rams are absolutely winners from the offseason. Whether that equates to a Super run for the Rams, we'll see. Whether that equates to the Raiders being uber competitive and will we see Mendoza right away? I don't know, but I don't think we need to debate those two teams. Anything that you agree with that?
No, I love what the Raiders did. Some of it's kind of by accident because of Max Crosby is there and happy. That really makes them competitive. They get close to, a 500 record. But I do like the Raiders, and they took a lot of shots. They've drafted some people that I'm excited about, and I love the Clint Kubiak hire. I think he's just amazing.
Yeah. What do you think about Dallas?
This one kind of I don't know if I necessarily saw why they're on there. I do for them like that they added Rashawn Gary, and then I think the Caleb Downs pick in the Malachi Lawrence, that's two of their 2 first rounders, I think are both really good draft picks. And if they do the right things with what they've done on their defense, if their defense gets to be really good, it actually is a good offseason for them, because I think that I told you last year, I thought that CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens for them is an incredible duo to put together. I'm not sure if they did enough on the running back side of things for me to understand how they're actually going to operate as a great offense. I don't think that they're there, but I don't know. You can't tell me that Jaden Blue is going to be your number one running back and take you to the playoffs. I guess Javonte Williams, I like him, but I don't know. That's my big question. I think there's a huge question mark at running back for them.
In the article, there's a paragraph that starts by the following. Retaining George Pickens on the franchise tag also ensures the Cowboys have a potent pass-catching duo for Dak Prescott to lean on. So here's the thing with George Pickens. I don't think they're going to negotiate a long-term contract before the season.
They are not.
And George Pickens is going to play on the franchise tag. George Pickens is going to be a ticking time bomb if things don't go well. Just so we're all clear and we're on the same page. He did it last year when he was getting his. He's happy. If he doesn't, watch out. And that's exactly what's going to happen, because he's going to be looking at this. And if things go south, let's say Dak Prescott gets hurt and he's not getting the football, and he's seeing, I'm getting this much for this year, but this is hurting my potential for next year. It's going to get ugly real quick.
Apparently, the word is that the Cowboys head coach and George Pickens have developed a great relationship and have an understanding. And this is where George Pickens he showed up on time for workouts, and he's been there. And now again, that's the thing about the ticking time bomb, is it's got to be ticking. But the idea and the thought is the two of them have a really good understanding and relationship. And I'm guessing that after all the big stuff with Micah Parsons, players have to understand that in Dallas, that if you're willing to wait on your contract, you will get your contract. Now, if you want to try to push it, that's just not going to work there. Like doing Jerry Jones is going to do it his own way, which is wait till the last second and then franchise tag you. And the way he will pay you, but except for in the Micah Parsons stuff. I mean, honestly, he was willing to pay Micah. And then Micah tried to stop the trade after he did it. It's just so maybe somebody talked to Pickens like this is just the way it's done here, and
Okay. All right. Now I don't want to turn this into the AFC North segment.
The Ravens hate group.
I really hate the Ravens. I hate them even worse after the whole how they handled the Max Crosby trade. It's just bad business. We've talked about that before. Nonetheless, they're really praising this offseason for the front office, getting Trey Hendrickson. They obviously got Vega Ione. They lost a ton of talent, though.
They added Max Crosby. I mean, just, one of the best pass rush. Oh.
Oops. So, okay, this
if they had added Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson, I would have no pushback on this list.
I wouldn't either.
I would be
as
like,
a Steeler fan.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be like, killed it.
The Browns, the Steeler fans always say the same thing. The Browns always win the offseason because it's literally every year, like after the draft.
They win the preseason too.
Yeah. They'll say, Cleveland Browns, A+ draft. This team is definitely turning around. And then they just don't have anyone in place to actually do anything with these players. They can say what they want. I'm not going to be a believer in Todd Monken until he does something. Right. Deshaun Watson's going to be their quarterback. I don't know. You can give me your thoughts on these two teams before we go into teams that might have been left off the list.
Well, is replacing your offensive coordinator with a 30-year-old offensive coordinator, I got to see that work before I give you any credit for it. And I mean, and no offense to Declan Doyle, he's 30 and has when's that? Is there even a history ever of that happening
that's young,
in a team a team that thinks they're a Super Bowl contender having a 30-year-old offensive or defensive coordinator? And also when you're going through and you got to listen, I like Trey Hendrickson. He's always been underrated his whole career. This is probably the time not to pay him the huge deal. I mean, he's been asking for it for so many years. And it's just an interesting thing. And listen, I think Trey Hendrickson's great. He's had great numbers and sacks, but he's played for two teams, the Saints and Bengals. Both of those teams, after having him, refused to give him the next big deal. Those teams, the Saints look stupid for having not signed him and needing a pass rusher ever since he left. But they didn't believe to give him the big deal, and the Bengals, who had him in-house, didn't believe enough to ever give him the big deal. And that was always but when your two big offseason moves are Trey Hendrickson and how the hell old is Calais Campbell now? And when you have to mention Calais Campbell as one of their big offseason additions, I'm like, what did you actually do?
I think and what's crazy, the losing center Tyler Linderbaum to the Raiders, which is one of the big gets for the Raiders and why the Raiders are winners on this list, as they should be. They never filled that gap. The Ravens still haven't filled that gap really on their roster. I think this team has holes all through it. If they're gonna pay Zay Flowers big money, I pray that they do, because I don't think he's that great. And so it's going to be really interesting how the Ravens move forward. You mentioned the Hendrickson deal, but also Lamar Jackson wants a new contract. I don't know. He can't ask for Patrick Mahomes money, but if he wants even Josh Allen money, the Ravens are going to say, I don't know, man. You haven't been able to stay healthy. You're a mobile quarterback. You're losing some mobility as you get older. That's natural. Do we still want to pay you that money? It's going to get ugly in Baltimore, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think that they're for me, their path to success makes a lot of sense. It's if Derrick Henry is healthy, you hand him the ball a whole lot. And instead, they did that for most of 1 year and then stopped doing it for the playoffs. And then last year, they were just like, oh, back to Lamar Jackson being the star of the show. And I don't get that, because all that talk 2 years ago about whether Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson was the MVP, Lamar Jackson wasn't the best player on his team, and he still isn't. Derrick Henry is the best player on that team. And so I mean, if you're not gonna, but none of that has to do with this offseason and the winners from this offseason, unless they came out and made a statement that I don't remember seeing of we're going to hand the ball to Derrick Henry 30 times a game. If they did that, great offseason.
Well,
But
and let's also not ignore though the fact that Derrick Henry's getting older, and at some point it's going to plateau, and he's either not going to stay healthy or his production is going to dip. He's not going to have the burst anymore. We all keep saying, "Well, it's not going to happen." It happens to everyone. I'm just saying he's over 30 now.
And I don't know if it was, I think it was on accident, but you were comparing a little bit Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. Don't forget that the Baltimore Ravens do have Diego Pavia. So maybe they have their own Mahomes.
Did he make the roster, the 90-man roster?
I think he's on the official roster. Yes.
Okay, so he got a rookie minicamp invite, and so he must have done enough to that guy.
Yeah, their quarterbacks are still Snoop, Tyler Huntley still there.
Skylar Thompson's on the list.
Skylar Thompson and Joe Fanano, whoever the heck that is.
Mm-mm.
I think that's a camp arm.
And Pavia.
So I know, and I mean, again, so we're not going to turn into this, but we are. So tell me why the Cleveland Browns did not have a good offseason.
To me, it's the same Cleveland Browns offseason. It's just rinse repeat. It's the same crap. It's they don't have a quarterback.
Well, okay, so what if I told you that either Shedeur Sanders or Deshaun Watson was going to be the 14th best quarterback in football? How then do you feel about this Cleveland Browns roster and team going into next year?
Same as I always do, because
I mean, I know you can't get over that. I know you can't believe that either one of them is going to be the. But
no. To me, it's not even about the quarterback. It's about the fact that they've never had an organization that goes from top down to the coaching staff that can ever put everything together. Go back and look at some of the great. They had some great talent in Cleveland. Some really good players, Hall of Fame players, mind you. Joe Thomas at left tackle for all those years. And they never had anyone that could get buy-in and put it all together. And I don't know if Todd Monken's that guy. He's coming in and he's trying to put his spin on everything. And I just think it's falling on deaf ears, man. Some organizations just can't get out of their own way. And I think Cleveland's one of them.
I think Cleveland could, if they handle the offensive play calling the right way. And I like the Monken hire for them. I think that's the kind of voice that they need in there. I think this team could be sneaky good. What they did with their offensive line, they rebuilt their offensive line. They got in 4 new offensive linemen for this team. Yeah. And I like them. I like, if their quarterback can throw, I like Denzel Boston, Isaiah Bond, and Casey Concepcion added to this. And they already had, Malachi Corley and Jerry Jeudy. Like, that's a top 5 wide receiver that's real interesting. And I was sneaky. They got Aaron Anderson, who had played at LSU, and I think he can be somebody that's going to be on a practice squad and playing. But if this offensive line, if they can run the ball with Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson, and I like Quinshon Judkins, you can open things up for really talented. Their offense, if they have a quarterback, their offense is really set up to do some things. And I think that they made the best of the Myles Garrett situation they could. Jared Verse, I think, is going to be really good. And then they got a first round pick for next year out of it. I mean, among some other picks, but another first. So they could have the last pick of the first round.
You never know. Okay. So we've gone a little bit long, and this has been a good discussion for sure.
Well, I was going to say, I actually made a mistake. They signed 4 veteran offensive linemen, but they also drafted Spencer Fano. Yes. So, I mean, they potentially overturned their entire offensive line with all 5 positions being upgraded. So, again, the quarterback situation's just, I mean, terrible there. But if you can see past that, it's
well, you didn't mention Dylan Gabriel either, which is a sin.
I did not, and I'm not going to.
All right. All right, man. It's been a good discussion, though, and gives us a good look as to what teams have done this offseason.
In 30 seconds, is there any team that had an offseason, a good offseason that you think should have been on here?
That wasn't on the list.
Yeah.
in Kansas City, I don't think Kansas City's had a horrible offseason.
I think that if Mahomes is healthy and it looks like he is, the Kenneth Walker signings
Yes.
stupid.
Yeah.
And I think it's gotten forgotten about as far as Seattle and Kansas City all year. I'll nominate the Washington Commanders.
Really?
Because what they did with adding Rashad White, adding in Amik Robertson and Nick Cross to their secondary, and then getting in 2 pass rushers, Odafe Owe and Clavion Chason. If we have some health with Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels, I think that I still think they could surprise people and win their division.
Okay, good stuff. All right, man. Where can we find your Don't Patrol Saints coverage?
Yeah, any of your streaming platforms, you can find Don't Patrol Podcast. You can find us on X at Don't Patrol PCast. You can find me on X at WhoDatWesley13. I'll talk to you about any sports, any teams. Jeff, where can we find you and your Steelers offseason coverage?
You can find me individually on Twitter at jhartman, HARTMAN_PIT. All of my Steelers coverage is at the Steel Curtain Network, steelcurtainnetwork.com, or wherever you get your podcasts or streaming platforms by searching Steel Curtain Network. Wesley, man, it's been a good show. We're Thanks, 1 week closer, man. We'll talk next week. Take it easy.